This is Taryn Lupo. Welcome to Low Country Liberty Report. You might notice I have an accessory today. I will be wearing a different hat each report until I can confirm 10 people going to the Liberty Forum. So please stop making me wear these hats. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out the Liberty Forum. It's in March. You can get all the details at www.freestateproject.org/libertyforum. Since it is just a day away before the decade ends, I thought it'd be good to look back at the decade and give you my top 10 list of the biggest assaults against liberty of the decade. Hopefully you agree to most of these and beat me up in the comments if you don't. Number 10. I'm going to talk about vaccine laws and also vampire cops. The vaccine laws have really ramped up in the last 10 years. It used to be where you could just simply ask not to be vaccinated and that was okay, or you could have a religious exemption. In states like West Virginia, they no longer even allow religious exemption. You're forced to take this vaccination. But what bothers me the most is under the Bush administration, basically there's a list of injured kids that doctors have to keep, and this list just magically pretty much became private and disappeared under that. And the biggest insult is you can no longer sue vaccine makers if they damage you. So you're forced to take this vaccine, and if you get damaged, it is illegal for you to sue the company, the doctor, or any health administrators, or anything to do with the vaccine. So that really takes a lot of freedom out. I mean, what's more invasive than sticking things in your body by force? Or we could talk about the vampire cops, which take the blood out of you by force. For drunk driving, and this is big, there's been a big stink about this in Texas, these police officers have deemed that you no longer can refuse a blood test. Before, you could refuse like a breathalyzer or a blood test, and they would take you down and book you and usually throw you in jail. Now you're not even allowed to refuse. They will strap you down and take it by force. There were videos of this happening that mysteriously disappeared on the internet, and this has been a very disturbing fact. Number 9, socialized medicine. Socialized medicine has not completely passed, but we have had its graces in the form of Medicare, Medicaid, the VA, things like that. Now, this new bill that's going across is probably going to pass. I don't think this is going to be stopped. It'll be some watered-down version, but then in about 3 or 4 years, they'll regulate it to exactly what they want. So there's really no bigger insult, I think, of personal property rights than to say you have to go to this doctor or you will get fined. If you refuse to pay those fines, you'll wind up in jail. It's also an attack on anyone in the healthcare industry that you just basically got recruited, if you like it or not, by the government. You've been drafted to work for them and you have to now follow their rules. Number 8 is the rise of the drug war. The drug war, it really got its foot in the door in the 80s and then grew in the 90s, but it took off in the last decade. Things like no-knock raids, being able to seize drug dealers' property and just using it for the police force, things like this that have opened the door for so much civil rights abuse and civil liberties abuse. As long as they suspect you of having drugs, you pretty much are a victim. They can do whatever they want to you and there's no repercussion. Number 7 is the TSA and the creation of the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. Ever since a couple of terrorist attacks as well as 9/11, it's really ramped up, but it never really let go. What is 9/11? Almost 9 years later, we're still living in fear that the country's under constant terrorist attack. The simple fact is you cannot have a free country without some sort of form of terrorism. There's always going to be a threat no matter what you do. But there's threats everywhere in life. You could be struck by lightning, run down by a car. If you live in fear constantly, you surrender all your liberties. The TSA is a prime example of just how ridiculous it's gotten. You can't bring water on, you're assumed a criminal and they have to check your shoes. And people put up with this crap saying, oh, well, I don't mind waiting 10 hours as long as I know there's no terrorist. The TSA is not going to keep you safe. You know what's going to keep you safe? Other passengers. The passengers freak out and beat this guy up and detain him. I think that that's the real protection, because if you actually look at the TSA, they miss 75% of what's being checked in their own test. They know the test's coming and they still miss 75%. So that's all security theater. It's really not protecting you. The Department of Homeland Security is this creation, a knee-jerk reflex to basically create it out of fear. And it has drawn its tentacles into all sorts of aspects. It bribes local police forces to do what they want with huge grants and money. They also just trample civil liberties everywhere they go. I mean, at one point they used to pretend that, you know, they couldn't do things like wiretap your phone and do, you know, no-knock searches or anything like that where they don't even have to tell you, they just look in your bank accounts. All that stuff was done, but they weren't open about it and telling you. Now they don't even apologize. They just say it's for national security and do whatever the hell they want. Number 6, Kelo versus the town of New London. It used to be where the government could only use eminent domain to take property if it were something of the common good, like a road. But now, you're actually, with this Supreme Court ruling, you can take the property of one private individual and give it to another. So this was a huge assault on personal property. They basically justify it by saying if it can make more tax money, then it's allowed.
Don't get the blues, get Liberty News at LCL Report.